When a man goes to work, many times in a subway, in New York especially, it's very condensed. It's traffic. Not only on the street you have traffic, also in the subway you have traffic. On the bus you have traffic, which means it's condensed. You have many people pushing and you're tight. The problem is many times you're there and there's women around you. What are you supposed to do? They're touching you and you can't get away. There's no way you can get away. Are you allowed to go to work in such a way? Maybe you should take a special taxi that you're not going to be around any women. So, who asked this question? No less than the Igrot Moshe Feinstein in Even Ha'ezer, Chelek Bet. He brings down in סימן י"ד בדבר הליכה בסאבווי ובבס בזמן שהולכים בני אדם לעבודתם שנמצאים שם אנשים ונשים דחופים זה בזה. Even in the time of Moshe, the train were heavily condensed. He says, קשה מלהיזהר מנגיעה ודחיפה בנשים, אם מותר אז ללכת בשעות אלו שם. Are you allowed to go when it's like that? He says, מצד הנגיעה ודחיפה בנשים, לקשו מסור משום שאין זה דרך תאווה וחיבה. So let's understand what he says. First of all, of course, there's no question that you're not allowed to enjoy in any way touching the other gender. There's no question about that. Of course, when you're there, you have to try to be as much as possible to yourself and not in any way touch anybody. The question is, in a place that it's impossible, it's so tight, people are touching you, you're hardly holding to the stand over there. What are you supposed to do then? The Rambam says that there's a isur to touch women, a isur lav. Says the Rambam, הלכות איסורי באב, פרק כ"א, כל הבעל ערווה מן העריות דרך איברים, או שחיבק ונשק דרך תאווה ונהנה בקירוב בשר, הרי זה לוקה מן התורה. Even חיבק ונשק דרך תאווה ונהנה בקירוב בשר, הרי זה לוקה מן התורה, שנאמר לבלתי לעשות מחוקות התועבות. כלומר, לא תקרבו לדברים המביאים לידי גילוי ערווה. And this is how the Rambam writes also in the Lavim, that there's a isur to touch any women. But the Lashon of here of the Rambam, if you can take a look and see, is dafka derech idun, which means you're touching in a way that gives you pleasure. And this is how the Shach writes in Hilchot Nida Siman Kuf Tzadik Hey, that the isur is only if you enjoy the touching, if you have a benefit from it. It's derech chiba v'cheshek, and that's what Rav Moshe explains of it. Now, not everybody agrees with the Shach. The Bet Shmuel in Even Ha'ezer says it's asur even without enjoying it. It's asur touching it all, and this is how the Bet Yosef seems to say in Siman Kuf Tzadik Hey. But that the Shach La'alacha permits it, and the Poskim seems to go with the Shach. Otherwise, you would not be allowed to save a woman if she's dying. You're not allowed to say to a doctor. We're not allowed to treat a woman patient, or a woman doctor. We're not allowed to treat a man patient. Rather, we posek like the Shach that as long as it's not derech chiba v'tava, it's mutar. And this is what Moshe says. הנה מצד הנגיעה ודחיפה בנשים אז לקשו מסור משום שאין זה דרך תאווה וחיבה. As long as it's not דרך תאווה וחיבה, it's permitted. כל איסור נגיעה בעריות, אף להרמב"ם שסובר שהוא בלאו דלא תקרבו דאורייתא, דווקא דרך תאווה. This is how Moshe is posek. Now he says like this. So you're allowed to go there לכתחילה. אבל אם הוא יודע שהוא יבוא לידי ערבור, many times, it's not just touching that in a way that doesn't cause anything, but sometimes it causes הרהורים רעים. יש לו למנוע מללכת אם אין נחוץ לו. If you have a choice to go or not to go, you can go in a way that doesn't go into that scenario, choose the other way. But it's only אם אין נחוץ לו. If you got to go to work, and that's the only way, then he says over here that אף על פי שיבוא לידי הרהורים, what should he do? He says he מוכרח ללך לעבודתו, אין לאסור לו אף בעיקאי גוונה. I'm reading you Rav Moshe. Not everybody would agree with Rav Moshe, but this is what he writes. And then what you should do, התחזק להסיח דעתו מהם ולהרהר בדברי תורה. Person should try to think only about דברי תורה to be מונע מהרהור. Now, Rav Nissim Karelitz brings down in חוט שני that from the Chazon Ish that אסור לשבת מאחורי אישה כגון באוטובוס וכיוצא בזה, וזה יותר חמור מלשבת בספסל ליד אישה. רב מוישה explained in the tshuva that if the only seat, you have a seat in the train or in the bus, and there's a woman sitting there, so you're permitted to sit there. Even though it's a little bit touching, it's permitted to sit there. It's not, if you don't have another seat. Says the Chut Shanir of Nissim Karelitz, it's worse to sit in front of a woman, which means she's constantly in your seeing sight. That brings much more to Hurim than somebody that sits near you and you don't see her, because the Hurim mainly is by the eyes and not by anything else. So again, let's summarize it. One is allowed to go in a bus, in a train, even though unintentionally, again, that's the point, unintentionally he's touching, or a woman touching him, unintentionally. If it's intentionally, of course it's asur. It's even legally asur. It's very severe in America. But if it's not done intentionally, it's permitted, but in a way that you should not have hirurim. If a person has hirurim, there are those that would say you're not allowed to go at all. And this is how the Chafetz Chaim seem to indicate. And it seems like from Rav Moshe and from the Rav Pe'alim and from Torah Lishma also he brings it down, which means the Ben Ish Chai, that it's permitted to go in such a place as long as the main thing is your intention, your kavanah. Over here we're dealing with a case that he has to go. If he has to go, he has to try to be mitgaber. Yeah.
Should also like the Shach, not the Beit Yosef?
Oh, it's a good question. I always debated that question because the Beit Yosef seems to say that halacha should be asur in any possible way, but it seems to be that the minhag already is like the Shach. Even Chacham Ovadia is posek like that halacha lemase.